a Monday morning 10 o'clock live stream. I guess I should probably think about maybe a more catchy name for this particular live stream. I don't know. I never know what to call it. I just call it the live stream. So anyway, if you think of something, maybe you can let me know. But I guess I don't want to, name a platform because we're streaming on both YouTube and Facebook. So I don't want to call it, the YouTube live stream or the Facebook live stream. So I don't know. Anyway, if you've been one of our consistent followers here and coming each time, then I really appreciate you doing that. It means a lot to me. I appreciate all the questions and engagement. It's a lot of fun. So we're continuing with this portrait, and I believe, if I got my count correct, that we're on the 17th installment of this particular live stream. So we've been at this for a while, right? And I started looking at something. I wanted to discuss this with you, talk to you about it. We are going to do the glasses, but it's just going to be a minute before we do that. But when I'm looking at this, let me zoom in just a little bit here. One of the things I'm looking at, I started noticing, is when you look at this shadow over here with all the separations around the mouth feature and the nose, any of these separations right in here, we want a little bit darker. And the reason for that, suggesting a darker value there will help the nose to pop out more, right? Okay, but then we don't want to have competition with other dark features. So the eyes are pretty dark, and we've still got a little bit of things that we're going to change with those. And the nostrils are dark, right? Okay, we're looking at maybe a value scale 10, right? Okay, and then if we look at the corners of the mouth, they're pretty dark, but they're not as dark as these other areas, like the nostrils and the eyes. So that is a problem. They actually could be darker, and what that will do is it will effectively make all of this start to pop out a little bit more. Hey, Claudette, she's watching over there on YouTube Live. Appreciate you being there. Okay, so what pencil should I use? I've got all of these pencils, and from time to time, I make a big deal out of not using a black and that kind of thing. I don't ever really just carte blanche say not to ever use a black. I just don't use a black all that often. I do use a black once in a while. Hey, Linda, how are you over on YouTube Live? But just in keeping with everything else, so that we'll stay in balance with our color palette and our value scheme here, I'm going to go ahead and probably use one or more of these three pencils. So I'm going to take this dark indigo, the Polychromos line, dark indigo, and I'm going to darken those values at the corners right in here, because this needs to be darker than areas up there on the face. Why? Because this area recedes more than an area right here on the cheek, right? Obviously, it's going to be pushed further back than anything right up here on this plane of the face. Anything back in the mouth where I can't see it any longer is going to have to be darker. I mean, that just makes sense, right? So anything inside the mouth is going to be darker. When we get closer to that corner of the mouth where we're seeing part of the lips, then that's going to be a brighter value than anything inside the mouth. So we have to keep that in mind, that we're not going to make something on the lips darker than an area that we would indicate as being inside the mouth. Okay. Let's grab Caput Mortem. Actually, no, that's a little bit... I'm going to go even darker. Okay. Well, I was looking for Nightshade, which is really, really dark, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use chocolate. You can tell I love this pencil, right? Use it all the time. It's nearly all gone. Okay, it's just a very dark brown. It could qualify as a black. Nightshade can do the same thing. It's a very dark tinted navy black. There's a tint of navy in that particular color. Okay, went a little darker than probably I wanted to, and that's all right. Same way over here. And then let's grab a gray. And with that gray, we're going to be able to put that tooth way back there that we saw. We're going to be able to put that back in there. Okay, let's go down in here. If you are following along and if you have enrolled in the Portrait Prep drawing course, then I'm so excited about that course right now. It just released a 38-page PDF workbook inside the course. It's so exciting. So if you're in that course and you haven't got that yet, I sent out an email this morning, but you should be able to go over there and download it. It's got clickable links in it, so it's really a cool workbook. I'm excited to offer that to you. Okay, let's see here. All right, so this is an area where, I can vary. I think you can still see this. If you look at this part of the lip right in here, it looks pretty bright. It looks nearly as bright as maybe one of the values down here on the lips. But, that's something where that's an area where you can use some creative license, some artistic license, and you can change the way something looks that you're drawing. And that's exactly what I did right there. As I'm making that a little bit darker. As I'm looking at it, I think it looks fine to leave it that dark. Okay, let's find a good gray pencil. All right. Oh. So Angel's got a great question over there on YouTube Live. She says, how do you select pencils more on experience with the colors you have used or by brand when deciding to use in this mouth and etc.? I guess in any area, right? Okay, so that's a great question. And one of the things... it's kind of a combination of all of those, but one of the things that I do, let me just correct this really quick, is I'm looking for a color, just like with this gray. I was trying to find a color, but I was also looking for a Polychromos brand pencil. just because of the type of pencil that it is. It's much more fluid because of its ability to blend and to change up what you put down. It's something that on especially a sanded surface, I'm gonna look at it over here. If you don't like the color that you put down, you can go over on top of it and you can change it quite a bit. Now, you can do that with other pencils, right? But with Polychromos, it's so easy to do that. And so it is some experience. I'm thinking about the properties of the pencil itself, that particular brand. Is it something where I can change it if I put it down? If I'm using like a wax pencil, maybe even Luminance from time to time, I'm not going to be able to change certain things once in a while when I've gone so far in a particular direction. Then it's going to be like, okay, that's it. Or it's going to take more effort, I hope that helped. I felt like I rambled a little bit there, but for the most part, at this stage in the game, I'm thinking about color quite a bit. I wasn't doing that early on, right? When we were first laying everything down, I was not doing that because I knew color shifts could come later. And so I'm thinking about the property of the pencil and how easy is it going to be to shift something in a different direction if I need to do that. And that's a primary consideration really at this point. Okay, there are a lot of shadows that are starting up at the top. So I can put in this slightly darker color for a moment. And that's a Polychromos color. I can use this gray to mute it down or to push this all down too. So way down here. Okay. The teeth are an area, and the mouth is an area, I should say. These are both areas where you do want to keep addressing it, keep looking back at it, keep thinking about what it's looking like right now. What's the overall compositional balance of the values and the colors. And keep modifying it if you need to. All right. There we go. Okay. Now, let me move along. Let me move from that area, and let me just put this in here a little bit. Okay, and over here. All right, so, okay. So now I want to start thinking about some of these lighter areas, and I believe set these pencils aside for a moment. Now I've got to thumb through the files in my head and think about, because there's been a number of drawings on this board in the past few weeks. I want to think about the color I was using here to lighten up some of these areas. So Linda is asking what color is that I was using. Let's see. So I was floating in and out of Caput Mortem, dark indigo, and this gray color. It's a warm gray 1. That's what it is. You remember you have several grades of warm and cool grays in the Polychromos line. So that one was warm gray 1. All right, let's take a look here. And oh, I did want to fix. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Did want to fix this this collar down here, so I got to zoom out just a little bit so you can see this. I just kind of pushed that in there really quickly, and knew I was going to readdress it later when I look at the collar over there on the right side. So I want to take a look at that again, right in here. So we've got some hair that is being pushed down in this area from inside the shadow. You know, the neck can be a tricky area because if you don't give it the attention it deserves, you can start making the anatomy look off. And, you know, we don't want to do that. We want to pay attention to the relationship of where all of these things are, and not, you know, not just gloss over those areas, but give them the attention they deserve so that everything else looks like it's in balance. I can make the neck look too wide if I'm not careful, or I can make it look too narrow, and so it'll make a lot of other things look off if I do that. So I've got to really think about those things. All right, so I can always make this darker right here by the edge of the face, by the edge of where that earlobe is. I can always make that darker. I can fade it out over here as I approach this area. Why? Because this hair is coming forward, right? So I want to think about all those things logically. And darker down here. Okay. Very dark back here, obviously. All right. So, same thing over here. And right down here as well. If you're watching over on Facebook, just let me know. I just want to make sure we're streaming over there just fine. We should be. I had to do some finagling and changes to the stream over on YouTube, but I think Facebook settings should be fine. But you never know. So if you are watching over there, just say good morning or hi or something. All right, there we go. And then as the hair recedes back there past the collar, of course it's going to be darker as it moves away from our view over there. Now see, if I thought about the shadows and I thought to myself, oh, you know, it doesn't matter. No one's looking in the shadows. It's just dark over there. And I don't really care about the rules of light, you know. Then, oh, hey, Carol, thank you so much. So Carol's over on Facebook. You know, and I didn't think about everything that's going on in the shadows, and I just pretended like it's just all a static value over here. Then it would stand out as being a problematic area for the overall composition. Same way with looking at facial features and structure, you know, and being able to describe form and all those good things. If I didn't pay attention to that, that would stand out, right? Like, well, I got the colors right, you know? Hey, Melanie, thank you so much. Thanks, guys. Melanie's also over there on Facebook Live. So, you know, if you said that to yourself, if you said, well, at least I got the skin tones looking great, you know, the mouth may be off or the nose might be crooked or something like that, but at least these other things are right, then it still creates a problem, right? Because you know, you can't, nothing's in a vacuum, nothing's on an island by itself. And so we have to have all those things looking at least in the ballpark, you know, getting them at least sort of correct. And it's easier said than done sometimes. But this is a reason why we want to keep looking back at areas that we've already completed or areas that we feel like are already done. We want to keep going back to those areas and saying, okay, is this looking correct? You know, if you look at it with a fresh set of eyes, you're asking yourself, what is this really looking like? And think of yourself as being a viewer of it for the first time. And I talked about that actually in today's podcast that I put out. I don't know if you guys heard that yet, but talked about some 4 keys to a self-critique and what to look for when you're doing a self-critique. And it assumes a little bit of knowledge, right? That you have to be able to understand certain things at the beginning. Angel's asking, do you find yourself using Luminance on bottom layers and Polychromos on the upper layers? At this point in the game, and I know a lot of people don't like this because it's not real formulaic, but I just use whatever I think is going to work. You remember color-wise. So remember I talked about that a second ago. Color and flexibility of the medium, like Polychromos is really fluid. So is that going to help the overall composition? Like, am I able to move things around? This Amazon Echo thought I was talking to it. I had to turn it down real quick. So in the very early stages, if you remember, I used Polychromos a lot because I was able to move everything around. It's very, very fluid. It's like using charcoal, right? You can move it around and you can push it in different areas. And so I did that with my Polychromos pencils very early on. And Derwent Lightfast to a lesser degree, but really the Polychromos, you can move them around a lot. So I use them quite a bit. Things that I feel like, okay, I know the color, I know exactly the tonal quality of this, I know the value. Then I'm going to go ahead and use something a little more permanent like a Luminance pencil. But at this stage in the game, I'm trying to still, think about color shifting, like pushing something in a different direction. If something's too dark now, because we're nearing the end of the drawing, so if something's too dark, then I want to start pushing it over into a lighter area. But I also want to think about the color as well, not just value. And Anyway, I hope that didn't sound like I was just rambling, Angel. It's a good question. I just don't have a very formulaic answer for that or prescriptive answer because, it's one of those things where I'm still thinking about it as, being something where I can use any pencil kind of thing. And I'm not thinking, I can't use that one on this final layer, But I tend to use Luminance more than I do Polychromos on final layers. That's what I'm trying to do, usually. It's actually a really good question. I should actually probably think about that just a little bit more. But my overall thought process really is more concern with the ability to push any area into a lighter direction and the color, thinking about the color. So Angel says, that actually fully explained what I was asking. Back to the critique podcast info. Oh, well, good. Thanks, Angel. Yeah, so I don't know what I was saying about that other than just the importance of being able to do a self-critique. At the beginning, obviously, I understand at the beginning you can't do a self-critique, right? You have to have certain amount of knowledge to be able to start critiquing yourself. But on the other hand, there comes a point in time where, and it's pretty early on, where you need to start, and I'm putting myself in that boat too. I had to start thinking about the completed work in a critical way, and I had to start thinking, okay, is this progressing the way that I want? I look at my WIP and I say, okay, is my work in progress actually going in the right direction? And then I would narrow in. I have to narrow in on certain things and ask myself that very, very critical question: is this right? Is this looking the way that I want it to look? And if it isn't, then I have to say, okay, what is it about this that is not working the way that I want it to? And that's really the toughest part, I think, is being able to ask that question and provide an answer to it, and to say, okay, the reason why it's not working is because of, fill in the blank. So if we're talking about, okay, hair, all right, so if I have a highlight over here in the hair, and I'm wondering, how do I make this lighter color of hair look like it recedes past the collar back here? Do I use that same color the whole time? And if so, do I just do a color shift? If this is, say, burnt ochre 10%, then do I use burnt ochre 50% and then full burnt ochre down here because it's darker? Or do I do something else? And if I look at that and I start thinking about it, is it convincing the way it is? If not, then what did or did not work? If I am able to start critically looking at my work like that, and I'm able to ask some of the right questions or get in the ballpark of the right questions, then it creates a loop in my mind, an open loop that I have to answer. If I'm asking a question, we don't like questions that are unresolved, right? Then I have to answer that question. I got to sharpen this pencil. I don't like hearing questions unless there's an answer, right? I think we're all like that. It's like, okay, I may know the right question, but I also want to know the answer also. I want to know that more than I want to be able to answer or ask the right question. But it has to start with a question. It has to be, you have to be able to ask the question. So let me contrast that with this question. What's wrong with this? I don't know, but this doesn't look right. That kind of question. I don't know what it is, but this looks wrong. That's not specific. That doesn't actually lend any kind of clarity to the problem at all. When I used to work in IT, long time ago in support IT, some of the questions, those are comical. Like some of the questions were things like, my computer won't work, or my computer won't let me do this, or my computer won't let me log in, or something. Now that's a little more clear even. My computer won't let me log in, things like that. My computer isn't working today. What's wrong with it? Not real clear questions. There cannot be very clear answers with that kind of thing. So Diane, that's great over there on Facebook Live. She's saying some important things. I think I mentioned a few of those on the podcast actually this morning as well. I don't know if you listened yet, but that's one of the things to talk about is she says she takes a work in progress on her phone. So she can turn it then into grayscale. She can judge the values more correctly or more accurately. Looks at it in morning light sometimes, and that's a good thing to do too. Look at it in morning light. Look at it in the evening light with get that glow on there, that sunset glow, and it will really reveal some things that maybe you haven't noticed before. Yeah, so Sergio Man is saying still no glasses. Yeah, still no glasses. Yeah, we haven't done the glasses yet. We will. We're going to. When I start noticing certain things in features and values with the skin, then the next thing I think about is, if I put those glasses on, then I'm going to potentially create a mess for myself, or at least make it where it's going to be more difficult to correct some values if I need to go around glasses the whole time. So that's the reason for that. But I tell you, I remember early on, though, drawing, and I'm sure those of you who have been drawing for a while, I know there's a lot of you out here that have been, you remember what it was like when you couldn't do a self-critique at all. I couldn't do a self-critique, and having somebody just be able to point something out, I won't say that it just helped me, but I would actually say that some of the things that were told to me early on were pivotal, were just such an advance forward for me. It actually helped me to understand certain things and understand my own preconceived ideas about drawing or about structure, about anatomy, all kinds of things. And I didn't consider those things before then. And I had somebody say, I remember this in particular. Somebody said, I said, I think I'm done with this one, and I showed it to them. They said, no, you're not. You're not done yet. And they started pointing out a few things like, wow, okay. Some of the things that, I still look at today. So Sergi Man saying, so what is the reason behind not including the glasses and the base layers, if you did not mind me asking? Oh, okay, yeah, sure. I thought I just answered that. Well, I kind of answered it, I guess. I wanted to think about the entire, I've done it before where I've included the glasses. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. I wanted to think about the entire facial structure and, more importantly, the ebb and flow of the skin the value structure of where everything is fitting together. So, for instance, if I've got a shadow starting to increase and then it will decrease and come into a highlight over here around the eyes, then I don't want there to be anything that obstructs my view from being able to depict that accurately. Now, when we put the glasses on, some of those things, they'll still be able to be seen, but they're going to be less important. But had I not thought about those things in the beginning and had my area less encumbered, then I might have had more challenges being able to create that illusion. So there's nothing wrong with putting the glasses in early on, and I've certainly done that. So most of the time, if I'm doing a commission, most of the time, if at all possible, I'll ask someone not to put their glasses on. If you can get away with not having your subject wear glasses, that's even better, Okay, hope that helped, Sergi, man. That's a good question. So this area is darker down here. I'm going to make this darker up here for a moment as I push it towards the middle. I think I probably want to get out my soft tools here in a moment. Oh, Sergi, man. Your humorous responses and writing astonish me, Sergi, man. They are you're entertaining, I tell you. You really are. I wondered if I thought about you the other day. I wondered if you're working on a new portrait. For those that don't know, Sergi Man is actually a phenomenal portrait artist. I don't know, maybe you do other work as well, but the portrait you showed me is just phenomenal. And I just wonder if you're working on anything new right now. Okay, let's see here. So I like this, getting this base layer in here on top of this darker area, and then pushing it back with a middle value. So this is something, Angel, to kind of answer what you were talking about. This is something that I'm doing right here that's, trying to do those two things at one time, where I'm using a more permanent pencil. It's the way I think about it, this wax-based Luminance pencil. And then I'm also using sienna as a middle value pencil to blend everything together. But I'm starting off on a darker value in this area on the neck. So Sergi Man says, just in graphite because of my finals season. Oh yeah, I forgot you were in school, so you're working on some things in graphite. Very, very cool. Yeah, no, you. He said it must have left an impression on you, though. Hopefully, a good one. Yeah, no, absolutely, you did. Yeah, the portrait that you showed me was really great. Like I said, there's a lot of phenomenal artists that I come in contact with, and so it's pretty cool. Shiny is another one that I don't know if she's out here today, but she creates these cartoon drawings that they're just mind-blowing. I just admire that so much, because that's just something that I feel like is extremely difficult to do. Take a likeness of someone and then distort it in such a tasteful way that still will maintain the identity and the characteristics and personality of the individual, but accentuate the right things as well. That's so hard to do, or it is for me anyway. I don't know if that's easy for some people. It probably is, I guess. But so Angel said, "Did you lighten this side of the neck to darken it with the extra value?" So I darkened it all first, right? That was a long time ago, weeks and weeks ago. And so then I started lightening it up with, that's what I was trying to explain. I was lightening it up with this burnt ochre 10%, but then I'm using this middle value sienna in the Derwent Lightfast pencil line to go over it like I did over here, to create more of that three-dimensional look, that curve, because it's going to be darker over here. But this is more of a middle value when we're talking about the neck right in here. And this is a very fluid pencil. Now, if I wanted to, then I could take my soft tools and I could, push those back in a different direction, or I could blend that together a little bit more by taking the soft tool and scraping that sponge against this area. That's kind of a fun thing to do. It saves a lot of time also whenever you do that. You just have to remember that sometimes when you do that, it may distort some of the areas where you were very careful about your pencil strokes to get certain things correct. And so you want to go back and look at it. And I always try to think to myself, okay, what did that soft tool, the advantages of it outweigh this a lot of times, but what did that soft tool actually destroy? What did it, mess up and create a blurred mess of? And I want to go back in there in those areas and correct those things. Oh yeah, yeah, Sergi, man, I knew that. That Shiny had drawn you. That's really, really cool. Love that. Yes, they do. Good question, Linda. Linda's asking if the soft tools also work on other papers, other surfaces, or do they only work on sanded paper? Yeah, they actually work well on Stonehenge, on probably a lot of different papers. They work differently, so you have to keep that in mind. You can use them quite effectively on Stonehenge when you're using Polychromos pencils. So you can use a paintbrush, you can use soft tools, things like that when you're using Polychromos on Stonehenge paper, and some other papers as well. But Stonehenge works really, really great with that. The reason for that, and the reason why I would suggest Polychromos, is because, again, they're very, very fluid. And so you're going to be able to shift things around quite a bit. It's actually something that I did recently, still working on, as a work in progress of some limes right here. And you can see some of this soft mixing back here, blending of this lavender color. And so I use soft tools to do that. Yeah. Yeah, Sergi Man says uses soft tools with graphite and applied to Bristol paper. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, they work very well on anything with graphite. Graphite is very pliable as well, even more so than colored pencil, obviously. But yeah, I'm laughing because he says they work like a wild dream. That's right. Oh man, I'm loving this tea. This is a what is this? It's a matcha wild berry lavender or something like that. A little bit of raw honey, but man, I got the right blend this morning with it. Don't always do that, but this time it worked really well. Okay, I can use this. I need to sharpen that again. Using that sienna, though, you know, you are blending that layer of the Luminance pencil on top of there, so you're going back in there with this Derwent Lightfast pencil, and you're able to blend everything together. So it just makes your job so much easier. And I mean, it's like magic. You can see how that middle value starts to become more and more clear. Oh, Angel's asking, does it have caffeine? Matcha, it's green tea, right? I think it is. Putting me on the spot. I don't know all my information on teas. I think green matcha is green tea. I don't know. You guys have Google in front of you. Take a look. So green tea has, what is that? Like a natural caffeine? I mean, it's still caffeine, really, right? But I mean, it's like a natural kind of caffeine. I don't know. I'm going to shut up. You guys have Google. I'm going to sound ignorant if I keep talking about it because I don't really know for sure. Oh, yeah. Well, Sergi, man, I've already had my 2 cups of coffee, so I have to switch over to tea. I like drinking hot things, though. I just always have. So Linda's asking, do the soft tools blend out graininess? So I'm going to use the soft tool down here a little bit. I know we're at the edge, the border down here where you can barely see what I'm doing, but I hope you can see it enough. So they can, Linda, to answer your question, yes, they can. They can help with the graininess. I'm going to come back over here as well. I want to be careful, so I don't want to get this over there in the face or the chin area. Love that. Wow. I love that. Okay. I should raise that up so you guys can see it better. All right. This area still needs to be really dark over here. I'll worry about that later, but I have to, just talk about it or think about it, but I'm telling you my thought process that over here, right there by the edge of the collar, and that collar has got to change as well. It needs to be darker. So Sergi Man says, well, I accidentally had 4 cups of coffee instead of 2 in the morning instead of double espresso. I have been served a quattro espresso. So 4 shots of coffee in 1 cup. Wow. Okay. You might do something really productive then today. Who knows? Just don't draw unless it's something that you want done quickly. That's too funny. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone for a moment. Oh, that's working so nice, though. You guys have got to try out LuxArchival Paper if you've not done that yet. Such a good paper. I love it. The more I use it, the more I love it. The more I love it, the more I no, it is true, really. The more I love it, the more I use it. Okay. Let's go in this direction and darken that up just a little bit with my Polychromos Caput Mortem. Linda says he has to get off the ceiling first. Talking about Sergi Man, I'm guessing. Yeah. Too funny. Okay. There we go. That's not quite the color that I want, but that's kind of the direction. All right. Satisfied enough for right now at the moment with the way that neck is looking. Do need to readdress this particular area, this shirt over here. And let's see here. I don't want to use that. I want to grab... so Angel just says that she just got pastel matte in the mail. So excited about that. I am super excited for you. This is so cool. So did you get white, or did you get like a bunch of colors in one of those pads? Just curious. Yeah, I figured that was probably the case, Sergi Man. He says that, don't worry, after I stopped seeing the sounds and chasing the wind, I actually settled to be a busy bee. So, yeah, I figured that to be the case. I figured you're a pretty active guy. All right. Okay, bunch of colors. Cool. So did you get white, Angel, or are they all just colored sheets? Just curious about that. The cool thing is, and one of the things I want you to try in that, just do pretty early on, is use it like you would traditional colored pencil drawing. Draw something very simple. But then also take it out and use it with solvent. Do a separate test using solvent with it, and any kind of odorless mineral spirit like Gamsol or something like that, and just tell me what you think. I mean, it's incredible how fluid everything is. You feel like you've changed the medium entirely when you do that. It's pretty incredible. Oh yeah, so I actually think I like the white better than anything else, only because but I mean, they're all good, but I think the reason why I say that is because I can just use it to create anything that I want. I don't have to think about a particular background or whatever. I can start from a blank slate there. So, hey, thanks, Sergi Man. Thanks for hanging out for a while, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for coming over here. All right. Okay, so as we start to draw some of these areas over here with the hair, then the shirt will show through just slightly, just in a few areas. So create myself just a little bit of a zone over here where I'll put some of this down. I'm using Derwent Drawing Chinese White. And I'll put some of this down. And then I can go in between these areas with some darker pencils. Hey, Harry, thanks for joining us over here. So, from Scotland. I guess you're in Scotland? You're mentioning the extension of the lockdown over there? All right. Yeah, if you are joining for the very first time, if you've never been out here before, we do a live stream on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously every Monday morning at 10 o'clock. So if you're wanting to join us, that's when those take place. Oh, I see, Harry. Okay, so things are loosening up over here in the States, and I guess it's more on a state-by-state basis. But as far as the lockdown is concerned, I live in Ohio, and pretty much, most things are opening back up with limited capacity. So, yeah, things are starting to slowly return back to normal. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. We're going to add those. We just haven't yet. So I just saw some things earlier on, Harry, where we used some darker colors to help the mouth look more three-dimensional and recessed some of the areas inside the mouth. So it's things like that I don't want to miss if I start looking at glasses and, not thinking about those kind of things. Okay, so now I can use a darker color right in here. So question obviously that comes to mind is, what color would I use in that hair to create shadows? I could use blue, I could do that. I don't think I want to do that. Oh, it is so good. Thanks, Colored Pencil Magazine. I appreciate that. Yeah, this paper. I don't know. It is. It's just quickly become one of my favorites. It's just kind of magical. So what I was saying though is, I could use my dark indigo, right? But if I do that, then I run the risk of having some things look kind of odd in this area. And so purple, so Carol is talking about purple. Could use purple, yeah, really could. And it wouldn't be a bad way to go at all, especially because we've got red highlights in this particular hair. What I went ahead and decided on, though, was burnt sienna and Polychromos. Polychromos is important here to me because if I keep this really dark and everything goes well, then, I'll be golden. If I have a problem, if anything goes wrong, then if I use a Polychromos pencil, I'm able to change everything. I'm able to go back in there with my soft tools. And actually, I may just demonstrate that, show you how easily that can be done. But I can go back in there with my soft tools and switch it up, just blend it, and go over even my highlights, areas that are already lighter. And then I can redraw those areas. And so that's a great thing to do, really. It's a great way to get an area that is very delicate to have, you know, some highlights and some shadows, and that's what we're talking about right here, because we're down in this very bottom corner. Okay, so we're trying to show little tiny hairs, and sometimes that's a difficult thing to do. Now, some of this I have to keep in mind. Some of this will be framed or matted outside of the composition. So I don't want to, you know, just stress out about something over here in the tiny area of the corner or something like that. I want to think about the areas that are actually going to be included in the composition, you know. Okay, so we will go ahead and demonstrate that. I think it's worth doing. So I'll grab the soft tools and we'll blend that out, and then we'll come back in there with some highlights. Like I was mentioning earlier, you know, I just turned the sponge around and used the clean side, and I was using relatively the same types of colors, but just in case, I can just rub it off on this presentation board over here and clean it up a little bit. Okay, so this just blends all that together. And I don't have small little highlights anymore like I had earlier. So that's a good thing, right? Because now I can come back in there. Everything is, you know, if you think about it with the value separations, we had very, very dark areas and we had some highlights a little bit, not a lot. Now we blended it together, and so now we've got pretty much middle values again, right? So it affords me another opportunity to use some lighter colors on top again. So I'm going to look for the bright areas, and I'm going to think again, then I'm going to go back to sort of how I was thinking about it initially before we got down to this area today. But I was thinking about it in sections, right? Sections of the hair. And then we'll look for areas to highlight in a moment. Okay, so one of the pencils I was using before was this particular pencil. What is this? Sanguine. I can hardly ever read these. Sanguine. So I'm looking for just few little areas inside some of the shadows to add this particular color. I don't want to overdo it with this color. There we go. Okay, that's probably enough right there. So if I added some over here, I want to come back over here on this side and add a little bit because I want there to be balance. There we go. So as always, if you guys have any questions, I'm going to go a little bit longer today. Just because we need to kind of get this drawing completed and done. So I'm going to go a little bit longer today and work on this a little bit more. So if you have any questions or anything at all, you can ask those in the chat down there. I have a text-to-speech that will transcribe to me what you're typing in, and I will try to answer whatever questions you have about what we're working on here, or colored pencil in general, or portraiture. So, all right. You might notice that we still have a little bit of graininess going on over here right now, and that's okay. And the things that, the pencils that are able to smooth out some of those areas in like a pastel matte surface, they're not the same pencils always that are going to work the best on a sanded paper surface. And so, if you're used to pastel matte, you might be tempted and say, oh, well, I know what will get rid of that graininess over there. I'm going to grab this particular Polychromos pencil, and that will just alleviate that problem. But that's not necessarily the case when you're working on a sanded paper. The things that are going to actually seal something in when you get to final layers, for me at least, are the wax-based pencils. Those seem to do a little bit better in just sealing something and pushing all the other layers down enough to where you've got a finished look and feel on it, and no more graininess in the piece. Okay, I want to try to be careful about not crossing over certain areas in the beginning here, or not in the beginning, but in this stage where I'm trying to build up a few more layers still. Because if I do that, and then if I cross over some areas for some hairs that will be noticeable at the very end, then what may happen is, I might start having a problem where I need to go back over those areas with a darker pencil, and then I'm just gonna create a mess when I do that, because then I'm gonna have darker looking hairs coming over on top of lighter ones, and that won't always look too good. Sometimes that'll happen anyway, and so you just have to kind of deal with it as it happens. So if you're just now joining, you guys got quiet all of a sudden. I don't think Sergi Man was doing that much talking, was he? Anyway, if you are just now joining, you can comment. You can ask questions if you like. Also, for those of you who are in the Portrait Prep Drawing course, I don't know if you went out there yet or not, but I'm just excited about what we were able to offer today. We've got a 38-page PDF downloadable workbook, but you can use it and view it online. You can download it to your computer. It's got clickable links in the table of contents, clickable links throughout, and it's just a lot of fun. It follows the Portrait Prep series and the course. It's a totally free course, by the way, so if you're interested in being a part of that, then would invite you to do that. All right, so I'm going to look and see what that looks like at the moment. Okay, looks all right.
Watching here makes everyone stop breathing so we can absorb the knowledge.
That's too funny, Angel.
Linda Brewer. For black hair, how do you get it black
You know what? I'm thinking that we'll probably do some black hair. Linda's asking about black hair. We'll probably do that inside the face value course, black hair and brown hair, because I think that is something that people often wonder about. You certainly can't skip it, right? I mean, once in a while you have to draw black hair or brown hair. And one of the students over there recently, Somia, she drew some black hair and just did a phenomenal job on it. It was so impressive. And but that, it's one of those things where you start out the same way. You're starting out with thinking about the hair in sections, and you just keep progressing through that. Oh, thanks, Angel. So glad you enjoyed that the workbook over there. Yeah, printing it out should be a lot of fun too, because you've got enough white space in there to be able to go in there and work on assignments as well. So that should be a lot of fun. But yeah, using it as just a book on your desktop works really well also. Now, some of these areas, once in a while, will get a little stubborn. Ah, very cool, Carol. Yeah, I think a lot of people will probably do that. Just print it out, and it's a good resource to use in that way, because then, like I said, you can, if you print it out, you can go ahead and do the exercises in there. Do them on your couch or whatever, wherever you choose to draw. You don't have to be chained down to the computer, looking at it and then going over to your desk or whatever. So I think that's a good way to go. The nice thing about it is that these are things that I know a lot of you guys already draw portraits and are interested in leveling up in your portraiture skills. And so these are things that, for some of you, it's getting you back to the basics, the primary things that, if you're like me, often what I would do is I would skip primary things, and I would just think I could just gloss over those things and quickly move into areas that I thought were fun, And so it's really kind of forcing you to go back to some of the basics. Ah, so Linda, you're working on something right now. So if you want to go ahead and send that to me, I'll take a look at it, because I can't say without kind of looking at it, as you probably know. And we could talk about it on office hours also. But, depending on how black it is and what it looks like with the particular reference and the lighting, you might want to draw it with some black as well. Well, so Angel's talking about that last video that we did in the shelter-in-place drawing series, those live streams that we did, and the blonde hair. I remember you doing that, and it looks very good. It was very impressive. Even though you had a lot of things to say about it, I thought it was really good, and especially the the shifts in value and how you kept every section. You created that three-dimensional look. So that's really cool. Oh, very cool. Yeah, that owl that you did, Carol, is incredible. That was phenomenal work. Very, very cool. Well, I can't wait to see that one too then. That's going to be cool. Okay, let's take a look here. We're getting over there on that edge that I'm hoping, looking at how much tape I've got there, that will probably be matted outside of the composition. Oh, okay. You're talking about the last one with the dark-haired girl. I got you, Angel. All right. Let's see here. So we've got some very, very small and fine areas in the hair that I haven't depicted yet. So we do want to do that, and I will probably be using the Prismacolor Verithin in that area. Those just work so well for little tiny areas like that. Just something that I like to do from time to time when we're talking about something very, very tiny individual lines that we need. I know some people don't like those. I happen to like them. And it's not so much about the colors, and I may use Pablo's also, but it's not so much about the colors of those pencils as it is just the ability to keep that very, very sharp point. And so if we want some very tiny hairs that we can look at and we can see, and really depict some realism in that area, then those tend to work really well for that. So, yeah, we might go ahead and do that in that area. Okay, let's look around here. We've got a lot of things that we're still really needing to work on. Just want to do a few more things here on the chin, and then we'll call it a morning. Okay. Look for some areas that might be stubborn. So when I start raking the pencil across the surface, once in a while, and this happens on any surface, once in a while you'll have something where it won't want to go on there like you thought it should. And so you just have to keep moving the pencil in different directions to be able to get that to work. And it's going to show up a lot more when you're using a light pencil such as this one right here on a darker area. And so that's what I'm kind of fighting with right there. Now this is one of those things, I mean, taking my own advice about doing a self-critique like we talked about on the podcast this morning, but I'll probably take this into the other room, and since we're getting close to being done with it, take it in the other room and I'll put it somewhere where I can see it across the room and look at it a little more critically and think about it from a fresh, brand new perspective, as though I were a viewer for the very first time. And then look for some areas that still might be, needing some attention and might be needing to change. One of the best things about using a sanded paper, such as this LuxArchival that we're using right now, is the ability to not have to be careful with your stroke, and not have to be reserved because you're being delicate due to the tooth of the paper being so fragile. You don't have to do that on sanded paper. And then just the ability to keep reworking areas if you want to. You don't have to do that, but you can easily on sanded paper. And this LuxArchival makes it to where you can do it even with, a whole bunch of layers being laid down. You can keep working in more and more layers as you see fit, as you start looking at it and say, oh, I really need more layers over here. I need to shift the color in a different direction. If you're on Stonehenge or something like that, once in a while, you've just reached your limit. You've gone too far with layers, and it'll be difficult to shift anything in a different direction. So not so with this particular paper. So it's just great for that. All right, guys, I think I am going to go ahead and call that a session and say we're done for today. So I appreciate you being out here. Thanks for joining today. And again, just a reminder, we do this every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So if you would like to join us, well, then that's when we'll be out here again next Monday. So until then, take care and stay sharp. Bye-bye.